A real crime. In a series of podcasts, I want you to travel down some lonely roads with me. These are the roads I traveled with families who never got to say goodbye to loved ones. These family members were fated to live the rest of their lives waiting and wondering. I will begin this series with unsolved murders, but I will also revisit cases that include arrests because aspects of the case are worth re-examining. I wrote these stories when I worked as a reporter for the Charleston Gazette. I appreciate you joining me today for a new episode of A Real Crime with Susan Williams. I think most of us can agree that the abuse of children is the most difficult crime we as a society must face into. Face it, we must. Episode 14, When Children Are Invisible. Born with respiratory problems, Derek Dale Browning spent his first birthday in the hospital. His parents were there when he was admitted to the hospital, but they did not come back to check on him, not even for his birthday. On February the 8th, 1994, after he died from injuries he suffered in beatings that went on for many days, his death brought the attention he lacked in life. Staff with the Juvenile Justice Committee wrote a well-documented report about the many ways the system failed Derek. This was the first ever child maltreatment death report written in West Virginia. The report states that Derek was well known to the local child protection system. There really is no excuse for his death. I wrote many stories about Derek, his older brother who survived similar abuse, and his wonderful foster parents. This case bothered me terribly, as it would anyone who understands how bad life can be for invisible children. Now, 28 years later, I wish I could say we as citizens have made sure that no other Dereks will die at the hands of their parents and step-parents. But the likelihood that more invisible children will suffer may be greater now than ever. At the time I wrote about this case, our state had not been overwhelmed by parents who let drugs become the center of their lives. For the Brownings, alcohol was their drug of choice. If today's children are lucky, their grandparents step in. West Virginia has the nation's second highest number of grandparents raising their grandchildren. When I wrote about the Browning family in the mid-1990s, there were not enough child protective services workers to take care of all the children who needed attention. I looked at a statewide chart dated 2019, the most recent information available, and I saw vacancies for workers in almost every county. In Derek's case, several generations of his family failed to take care of their children. His mother, Sonia, who died young, was only 17 when she had her first child. Her parents died in a car wreck. She had serious problems that caused police to arrest her many times, and she had abandoned all of her children at different times. At age 9 months, Derek's father was in jail, and his mother had abandoned him. After Derek was beaten to death, his mother had to be released from jail to attend his funeral. Derek lived with his foster parents 17 months of his 2.5-year life. Ruth and Robert Klein loved him, protected him, and gave him the happiest days of his life. They wanted to adopt the two boys, but state officials never terminated parental rights. His brother was 4 when Derek was beaten to death. Sonia and Kevin Browning had 3 children. Their oldest child was a girl. She went into foster care early in her life. Kevin Browning told his daughter's foster parents he would surrender his parental rights if the foster parents gave him their van. They refused the van offer, but I'm happy to say that even in the face of many obstacles, this couple managed to give their daughter a good life. Once Human Services even tried to give the little girl back to her parents. The Brownings gave her back to her foster parents, the only parents she ever knew. Police arrested both Sonia and Kevin Browning dozens of times. Sonia recognized that she could not take care of her 3 children. She signed over her rights to their father. State officials gave the parents improvement periods, but no records indicate any improvements. Derek's father, Kevin Browning, moved into a mobile home in Raleigh County with his new girlfriend, Julia Ann Wyatt, and held down a job for a few months. With short notice to the foster parents, state workers allowed the pair to have the two boys. After Derek was murdered, state officials admitted they should not have tried to create a family where no family ever existed. Several warning signs were there to be read before the child was murdered. Derek had a doctor's appointment his father canceled. Browning said the family was moving. No one investigated. After Derek collapsed and was taken to a hospital, emergency room staff saw bruises from head to toe. The toddler had a broken foot, a broken nose, and pulpy eyes. After his head was shaved, they found knots where he was hit with an object like a wooden spoon or a plastic spatula. His feet were completely black from repeated blows. On his face, he had the clear imprint of adult fingers that left bruises. When Julie White realized Derek was unconscious, she went for help. She had no phone. She left him and his older brother alone in the mobile home. I always imagined how terrifying it was for the 4-year-old brother, who had also been beaten, to be alone with his dying baby brother. Wyatt told emergency responders she had no idea why the child collapsed into a coma. Derek's father took care of his own health and went to the doctor February the 4th, 1994, the day his son became unconscious. The father and girlfriend each pointed fingers at the other. Both had hit the two boys at different times. Both faced murder charges. The autopsy showed that the fatal blow the child suffered came close to time when he collapsed. His father was out of the house at the time. Browning entered a guilty plea to 2 charges of child abuse, and the murder charge against him was dropped. Facing 5 felony charges, Wyatt, the last adult to be alone with the children, went to trial in Raleigh County Circuit Court. After Browning was murdered, state officials created the first ever Child Fatality Review Team. With this team approach, officials hoped to prevent the deaths of other children. The surviving son was named after his father. He wanted to change his first name, and his foster family adopted him, so he got a new first and last name. I was grateful to my editors for allowing me to cover his adoption too. Foster mother Ruth Klein is one of the most insightful people I have ever met. A year after Derek died, she told me, "I want him recognized. I do not want him to be forgotten." She went on to say that the world does not know what potential we lost in this child. When Derek moved into the Klein home as a baby, he was malnourished and suffered respiratory problems. The Kleins nursed him to health. Klein told me, "It breaks my heart that we got him well just so somebody could kill him." Social workers told the Kleins they would move the boys in with their father gradually. They were supposed to return to the Kleins for another week. Then the social workers told them that the boys were doing so well they could stay with their father. "We did not get to say goodbye," Klein told me. She also does not like to imagine what Derek was thinking when his father and his girlfriend were hurting him. Was he wishing we'd come and rescue him? Klein asked. After Derek died, a woman from Crab Orchard, who was herself an abused child, raised money to buy a headstone for Derek. Carved into the headstone are 2 small hands reaching up to one hand, reaching down from a cloud. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Tommy Siner for his great work. Please join me next Wednesday for a new episode of A Real Crime with Susan Williams.